Dr. Marcus Webb sat at his desk in the Galactic Confederation's main research station. His blue fingers moved across the glowing screen as he read the latest report about a new species they had found. The species lived on a planet called Sol 3, which most people just called Earth. Another routine classification, Marcus said to himself. He had been doing this job for 20 years. Most new species were easy to understand and sort into categories. There were three main categories: green for safe species, yellow for species that needed watching, and red for species that were too dangerous to contact. The report about humans looked normal at first. They were bipedal creatures that walked on two legs like many other species. They had average strength and speed. Their bodies were not very impressive compared to other species in the galaxy. They lived for only about 80 years, which was quite short. Their technology was basic, and they had barely started exploring space. Dr. Elena Foster walked into the room carrying a cup of hot tea. She was Marcus's assistant and had worked with him for 5 years. "What do you think about the Sol 3 species?" she asked. "Seems like a clear category yellow," Marcus replied. "They have some technology and they fight sometimes, but nothing we haven't seen before." Elena sat down and opened her own copy of the report. "Did you read the cultural section yet?" Dr. Rebecca Stone spent 3 months studying their behavior patterns. Marcus scrolled down to find Rebecca's notes. As he read, his expression slowly changed from boredom to confusion, then to worry. The humans did strange things that didn't make sense according to normal species behavior. "Elena, look at this," Marcus said, pointing at his screen. "These humans do something called extreme sports. They jump off high places with only a piece of cloth to slow them down. They climb dangerous mountains for fun. They race vehicles at deadly speeds just to see who is fastest." Elena read over his shoulder. "That's odd. Most species try to avoid danger, not seek it out." The report got stranger as they read more. Humans had taken wild animals and somehow made them into pets. They lived with creatures that could kill them and called them family members. They had animals called dogs that were descended from wolves, and cats that were natural hunters, but somehow both species loved humans and protected them. "This doesn't follow any pattern we know," Elena said. "Species either dominate other animals or fear them. They don't make friends with them." Marcus kept reading and found something even more disturbing. Humans created stories and movies where they imagined meeting alien species. In most of these stories, humans tried to help the aliens or become friends with them. Some stories showed humans fighting aliens, but even then, the humans often tried to understand their enemies and find peaceful solutions. "They fantasize about meeting us," Marcus whispered. "And they want to be friends." The communication log showed something that made both scientists stop reading. Lieutenant Sarah Hayes had sent a diplomatic probe to Earth's moon to observe the planet quietly. The probe was designed to be invisible and collect information without being detected. But 3 days ago, the probe had stopped sending signals. The last message from the probe was confusing. It had detected several human spacecraft approaching the moon. The humans should not have been able to see the probe, but somehow they knew it was there. The probe's final transmission was a distress signal followed by what looked like an attempt at communication from the planet's surface. "They found our probe," Elena said quietly. "How is that possible? Our stealth technology is perfect." Marcus pulled up the technical specifications of the probe. It was designed to be undetectable by any species with technology level 5 or below. Humans were classified as level 3. There was no way they should have been able to find it. "Maybe they got lucky," Marcus said, but he didn't sound convinced. The next part of the report made them both uncomfortable. Dr. Stone had analyzed human military history and found patterns that didn't exist in other species. Humans fought constantly among themselves, but when faced with outside threats, they would instantly work together. They had something called world wars where millions of humans died, but they also had countless examples of enemies becoming allies when facing common dangers. "They turn warfare into cooperation," Elena observed. "How does that work?" Marcus found recordings of human communications that their spy satellites had intercepted. In one recording, human military leaders discussed plans for defending their planet against possible alien invasion. But in the same conversation, they also talked about what gifts they might offer to friendly aliens and how they could learn from alien technology. "They are planning for war and friendship at the same time," Marcus said. "This is unprecedented." The final section of the report contained Dr. Stone's recommendations. She suggested that humans required immediate reclassification to Category Orange, which was a level that didn't officially exist. It was for species that were potentially dangerous but not in any way they understood. Marcus and Elena sat in silence for several minutes after finishing the report. Finally, Marcus reached for his communication device and sent a message to the classification committee. Emergency meeting requested, he typed. Species Sol 3 requires immediate review. Current classification insufficient. As he sent the message, Marcus looked at the image of Earth on his screen. It was a beautiful blue and green planet that looked peaceful from space. But after reading this report, he wondered if they were looking at the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and they just didn't know it yet. The humans were coming, whether the Confederation was ready or not. Captain David Harrison stood on the bridge of the CNS Discovery, watching the blue planet grow larger on the main screen. His ship was massive, nearly 2 kilometers long and equipped with the most advanced technology in the Confederation fleet. Behind him, Ambassador Lisa Chen prepared for what should have been a routine first contact with a Category Yellow species. Sir, we're receiving multiple signals from the planet, reported Navigation Officer Tom Bradley. His voice carried a hint of confusion. They appear to be launching something. Harrison frowned. The intelligence report said humans had limited space capability. They had sent a few small craft to their moon, but nothing that should concern a ship like the Discovery. What kind of signals? Energy signatures consistent with propulsion systems. Small craft, but there are a lot of them, sir. The main screen shifted to show dozens of tiny dots rising from Earth's surface. Within minutes, the dots had become recognizable spacecraft. They were primitive by Confederation standards, using chemical rockets and basic fusion drives, but there were so many of them. Count them, Harrison ordered. Bradley's fingers moved quickly across his console. 27 ships now, sir. No, 31. More launching every few seconds. Commander Alice Morgan, the ship's tactical analyst, stepped forward with a puzzled expression. Captain, their coordination is remarkable. They're moving in perfect formation despite using different types of spacecraft. Some appear to be military vessels, others look like converted civilian ships. On the screen, the human fleet arranged itself in a complex pattern that made no tactical sense according to Confederation military doctrine. Yet somehow, it felt threatening and welcoming at the same time. They're using their moon's gravity to slingshot around and gain speed, Morgan reported in amazement. And they're communicating across all vessels simultaneously with perfect timing. How are they managing real-time coordination with such primitive technology? The human ships didn't attack or retreat. Instead, they formed a loose sphere around the Discovery, maintaining a respectful distance while clearly demonstrating their presence. It was unlike any first contact scenario Harrison had experienced in his 30-year career. Incoming communication, Bradley announced. Audio and visual. The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at a middle-aged human male in what appeared to be a military uniform. His face showed both friendliness and alertness. Behind him, other humans worked at consoles that looked remarkably similar to Confederation technology, though clearly built with different methods. Welcome to our solar system, the human said with a warm smile. I'm Ambassador Robert Turner, speaking for the people of Earth. We've been hoping to meet you for a very long time. Ambassador Chen stepped forward, following standard protocols. Greetings. I am Ambassador Chen of the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace to establish formal diplomatic relations. Turner's smile widened. Excellent. We've prepared a small demonstration of human culture for your visit. Would you prefer to see our artistic achievements first, or would you like to observe our military academies? We're quite proud of both. The casual way Turner mentioned military and art in the same sentence sent a chill through the bridge crew. Dr. Patricia Wells, the expedition's xenopsychologist, began taking rapid notes on her data pad. Perhaps we could begin with your cultural centers, Chen replied carefully. Wonderful, Turner said. We have artists standing by to show you paintings, sculptures, and music from across our world. We also have our top strategic planners ready to discuss defensive tactics and weapons development, if you're interested. We believe in being comprehensive in our hospitality. Dr. Wells leaned over to Harrison and whispered, Captain, this is highly unusual. Most species separate their cultural and military presentations. Humans seem to view both as equally natural topics for friendly conversation. The demonstration that followed left the entire Confederation team unsettled. In one transmission, humans showed beautiful paintings and played haunting music that moved several crew members to tears. In the next, they casually displayed weapons that, while primitive, showed remarkable creativity and effectiveness. Turner introduced them to a human scientist named Dr. James Miller, who enthusiastically explained their latest medical breakthroughs. Within the same conversation, Miller mentioned their newest missile defense systems and asked if the Confederation had any interesting diseases they needed help curing. "We love solving problems," Miller said cheerfully. "Whether it's cancer, poverty, or hostile invasions, humans work best when we have challenges to overcome." Commander Morgan watched the tactical displays with growing amazement. "Captain, their defensive positions are constantly shifting, but every ship knows exactly where every other ship is supposed to be. They're treating this like a dance." The most disturbing moment came when Turner asked if the Confederation delegation would like to visit Earth's surface. "We have prepared guest quarters in 12 different countries," he said. "Each location has full military protection, of course, but also access to our finest restaurants, museums, and universities. We believe visitors should experience both our hospitality and our preparedness." Ambassador Chen managed to maintain her composure, but Harrison could see the strain in her posture. "That's very generous, but we have protocols to follow before surface visits." "Of course," Turner replied. "We understand the need for caution when meeting new species. We've actually run thousands of simulations about first contact scenarios. We found that bringing gifts and offering food usually works best, so we've prepared both." As the Discovery prepared to depart, Dr. Wells approached Harrison with her preliminary report. "Captain, I need to recommend immediate reclassification. These humans display unprecedented psychological complexity. They can simultaneously express genuine friendship while making it clear they're prepared for violence. It's as if they've weaponized charm itself." Harrison looked back at the screen showing Earth's beautiful blue surface. "Send the report to headquarters immediately. Mark it urgent priority." As they jumped to hyperspace, Harrison couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just given them a demonstration of something far more dangerous than weapons or technology. They had demonstrated the ability to make their potential enemies want to be friends. Dr. Oliver Grant crouched behind his invisible observation equipment on a hill overlooking the human city called Denver. His cloaking device made him completely invisible to human detection methods, or so the Confederation scientists believed. He had been watching human behavior for 3 weeks now, and everything he saw confused him more. His communication device buzzed softly. Dr. Martha Price was calling from the observation ship hidden behind Earth's moon. "Oliver, you need to hear this," her voice whispered through his earpiece. "I've been monitoring their global communication network. These humans share everything with each other." "What do you mean everything?" Oliver asked, adjusting his recording equipment to capture a group of humans helping an elderly woman carry her groceries. "I mean everything, Oliver. They post pictures of their food, their personal problems, their fears about the future. They even share embarrassing stories about themselves for entertainment. They've turned vulnerability into a social activity." Oliver watched the scene below him with growing amazement. The humans helping the elderly woman didn't know her. They had simply seen her struggling and decided to help. This kind of behavior toward strangers was rare among most galactic species. "That's not the strangest part," Martha continued. "They've created something called memes. They take serious problems like existential dread or economic collapse and somehow turn them into jokes that make other humans feel better." A commotion in the city below caught Oliver's attention. Emergency vehicles were racing toward the river that ran through Denver. He followed them with his recording equipment and watched an incredible scene unfold. A small human child had fallen into the rushing water. Within minutes, dozens of adult humans had appeared from nowhere. They didn't panic or argue about what to do. Instead, they instantly organized themselves into teams. One group called for professional rescue workers. Another group ran along the riverbank, tracking the child's movement. A third group prepared medical equipment. A fourth group cleared areas for the rescue vehicles to land. "Martha, are you seeing this?" Oliver transmitted the video feed to her ship. "They're exhibiting collective intelligence behavior." What amazed Oliver most was how the humans planned for multiple outcomes simultaneously. While some worked to rescue the child, others prepared for what would happen if the rescue failed. They appointed leaders and backup leaders. They created contingency plans for contingency plans. The rescue succeeded. The child was pulled from the water, treated by medical personnel, and reunited with crying parents. But the humans didn't just celebrate and leave. They spent time discussing what had happened, how they could improve their response, and what supplies they should keep ready for future emergencies. "They learn from every crisis," Oliver reported. "And they don't just learn individually. They share the lessons with their entire community." Dr. Jennifer Brooks was monitoring human military exercises from another location. Her report came through on the same communication channel. Oliver, Martha, you both need to hear this. I'm watching human soldiers train, and they're practicing something I've never seen before. What kind of training? Martha asked. They're running scenarios where they have to choose between completing their mission and saving alien civilians. Not human civilians, alien ones. Species they've never met. Oliver stopped his recording to focus on Jennifer's report. That makes no sense. Why would they train for moral decisions involving hypothetical beings? It gets stranger, Jennifer continued. They're also practicing scenarios where they might need to communicate with alien species during emergencies. They've developed hand signals, mathematical concepts, and even artistic expressions designed to convey peaceful intentions to beings they can only imagine. The most disturbing report came from Dr. Kevin Adams, who had been analyzing human entertainment and literature. I've reviewed thousands of their fictional stories, he said through the communication system. In approximately 73% of scenarios involving alien contact, humans actively try to befriend or protect the aliens, even when it costs human lives. Oliver adjusted his position to get a better view of the city. They fantasize about helping us. Not just helping, Kevin replied. I found stories where humans sacrifice themselves to save alien children. Stories where humans share their resources with alien refugees. Stories where humans learn alien languages and customs to make aliens feel welcome. It's like they've been preparing to meet us their entire evolutionary history. The incident that changed everything happened on Oliver's 4th week of observation. He was watching a group of humans called hikers walking through the forest near his position. His cloaking device was functioning perfectly, and he was completely hidden. But one of the hikers, an older man with gray hair, stopped directly in front of Oliver's position and looked right at him. The human couldn't see through the cloaking device, but somehow he knew something was there. We know you're there, the man said calmly. You've been watching us for weeks. You must be cold and hungry. Would you like some coffee? Oliver's hand froze over his emergency escape button. The human was offering help to an invisible stranger. The other hikers gathered around, and a woman named Susan pulled food from her backpack. We're not sure what you look like or where you're from, she said to the empty air where Oliver stood invisible. But everyone gets hungry. Everyone gets lonely. If you're watching us, you're probably far from home. Another hiker, a young man named Bill, set a steaming cup of coffee on a rock near Oliver's position. We won't hurt you, he said. We're just curious about you, the same way you're curious about us. Oliver sat perfectly still for 10 minutes after the humans left. They had somehow detected his presence despite perfect cloaking technology. But instead of reporting him to authorities or trying to capture him, they had offered friendship. He activated his emergency communication to headquarters. Control, this is Observer Grant. Request immediate extraction and emergency classification review. Humanity requires immediate elevation to Category Red status. Confirmed, Dr. Grant. What happened? Oliver looked at the coffee cup still steaming on the rock beside him. They tried to befriend me. And I think it worked. Admiral Andrew Foster walked into the emergency meeting room aboard Confederation Central Command. The room was the most secure location in known space, with walls that could block any form of communication or scanning. Representatives from 12 different member species sat around a circular table, all staring at the holographic image of Earth rotating slowly in the center. The Admiral had called this emergency meeting after receiving disturbing reports from observation teams across human space. Every single report recommended the same thing: immediate reclassification to Category Red. In 300 years of Confederation history, no species had ever been elevated directly from Category Yellow to Category Red. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored delegates, Admiral Foster began. We are here to discuss the most unusual case in our classification history. The species from Sol 3, designated as humans. Commander Rachel Stevens stood up first. She was the Confederation's top military analyst and had spent weeks reviewing human behavior patterns. Admiral, the evidence is overwhelming. Humans don't just adapt to their environments like other species. They completely change their environments to match their needs. She activated her presentation device, showing images of Earth from space. Look at their planet at night. You can see the lights of their cities from orbit. They have reshaped entire continents. They've built structures that reach into their atmosphere. They've even changed the chemistry of their oceans and sky. The delegates murmured among themselves. Most species learn to live within their planet's natural systems. Very few had the ability or desire to reshape entire worlds. That's not the concerning part, Stevens continued. The concerning part is how fast they do it. Our geological surveys show that most of these changes happened in just the last 200 years. They're transforming their world at an unprecedented speed. Dr. Timothy Cooper stood up next. He was the Confederation's leading expert on alien psychology and had been studying human behavior for months. His report was even more disturbing than the military analysis. Colleagues, humans exhibit pack-bonding behavior that transcends all known biological limits, he said, his voice tight with concern. They form emotional attachments not just to their own species, but to any species they encounter. He showed images of humans with various Earth animals. These creatures called dogs were once wolves that hunted humans. But humans somehow turned them into companions. Cats were solitary predators, but humans convinced them to live in human homes. Humans have domesticated hundreds of species that should be their natural enemies. Dr. Cooper's presentation showed more disturbing examples. Our agents report that extended contact with humans resulted in confusion about mission priorities. Agent Willis began sharing his food with local human children. Agent Martinez started helping humans with their mathematical problems. Agent Thompson actually requested permission to stay on Earth permanently. The room fell silent. Confederation agents were trained to resist all forms of influence and manipulation. The idea that humans could affect trained operatives just through normal social contact was terrifying. "How are they doing this?" asked Delegate Kresh from the Centauri Republic. "We don't know," Cooper admitted. "They don't appear to be using any form of mind control or chemical influence. They simply make other beings want to help them. It seems to be a natural ability." Dr. Michelle Parker stepped forward with the most disturbing report of all. She was head of cultural analysis and had spent months studying human communication networks and entertainment. "Admiral, delegates, humans have weaponized hope itself," she announced. "They regularly discuss the eventual death of their sun, the heat death of their universe, and the possibility that they might be alone in the cosmos. But instead of falling into despair, they find these concepts amusing." Her presentation showed examples of human humor about cosmic-scale disasters. They create jokes about apocalyptic events. They make entertainment about surviving impossible situations. They have turned existential dread into a form of comedy. The delegates looked at each other with growing alarm. Most species found the contemplation of universal death deeply disturbing. The idea of a species that found it funny was beyond their understanding. "There's more," Parker continued. "They have created thousands of fictional scenarios about meeting alien species. In the vast majority of these stories, humans try to help the aliens, even when the aliens are hostile. They fantasize about teaching alien children, healing alien diseases, and protecting alien refugees." She showed examples of human movies and books. They have imagined every possible form of alien contact, and their instinctive response is almost always to try to become friends. Even when they create stories about alien invasion, the humans often end up trying to understand the invaders and find peaceful solutions. Colonel Brian Mitchell, the intelligence director, presented the final evidence. "Admiral, human space programs have accelerated dramatically since our first observations. Analysis suggests they are not responding to our presence with fear or defensive preparations. They appear to be excited." His report showed images of new human spacecraft and space stations. They are building faster and larger ships. They are preparing for long-distance space travel. But their preparations are not military in nature. They are building ships designed for exploration and diplomacy. The evidence continued for 2 hours. Every report painted the same picture. Humanity was unlike any species the Confederation had ever encountered. They were dangerous not because they were violent or aggressive, but because they were irresistibly friendly. When all the reports were finished, Admiral Foster called for discussion. The debate lasted only 15 minutes. The evidence was too clear to argue with. General Helen Carter made the formal announcement. "The Emergency Classification Committee votes unanimously to elevate Sol 3 species designation Homo sapiens to Category Red status, with the unprecedented subclassification of aggressively benevolent." The room fell quiet as the implications sank in. Admiral Foster stared at the image of Earth rotating peacefully in the center of the table. "The question now," he said slowly, "is what do we do with a Category Red species that is determined to be our friend?" Nobody had an answer. For the first time in Confederation history, they faced a threat they couldn't fight, couldn't negotiate with, and couldn't avoid. Humanity wanted to help them, and that might be the most dangerous thing of all. 6 months after the emergency reclassification, Admiral Foster stood in the same secure meeting room, but everything had changed. The confident faces around the table had been replaced by expressions of barely controlled panic. The reports coming from across Confederation space painted a picture that military strategists had never imagined possible. Major Laura Thompson stepped forward with the latest intelligence report. Her hands shook slightly as she activated her presentation device. Admiral, we have confirmed reports of human cultural contamination on 17 different worlds. The materials are spreading through black market channels faster than we can track them. The holographic display showed examples of what humans called memes, simple images with text that somehow carried complex emotional and social messages. These appear to be weaponized humor, sir. Species that have maintained serious, hierarchical societies for thousands of years are suddenly laughing at their own problems. Admiral Foster studied the images with growing alarm. One showed a picture of a small Earth animal called a cat with text that read "Icon has galactic peace." Another showed humans and aliens working together with the caption "Friendship is magic, even in space." How are these spreading so quickly? Foster asked. They are not being distributed by human agents, Thompson replied. Our own people are sharing them voluntarily. Citizens across the galaxy are creating their own versions and spreading them to friends and family. Dr. Cooper, now head of the Human Containment Task Force, delivered his update with the expression of a man watching his life's work crumble. The pack bonding effect is spreading beyond direct human contact. Species that have maintained strict social boundaries for millennia are beginning to adopt human concepts. His report showed disturbing examples from across the galaxy. 3 separate worlds have reported the formation of what they call friend groups that cross species lines. Military units are calling themselves battle families. Even our diplomatic corps has started using phrases like chosen family and we're all in this together. The most alarming development came from Dr. Sarah Mitchell, who had been monitoring human space exploration. Admiral, we detected a human deep space probe approaching Confederation Outpost 7. Our analysis shows it contains no weapons, no surveillance equipment, and no military technology of any kind. Then what is it carrying? Foster asked, though he suspected he wouldn't like the answer. Mathematical proofs demonstrating human intelligence, various forms of human artistic expression, and what appears to be a formal invitation, Mitchell replied. The message translates roughly as "Greetings, neighbors. We hope you're doing well. Would love to meet you and hear about your culture. We make excellent coffee and have lots of interesting stories to share." The room fell into stunned silence. Admiral Foster rubbed his temples, feeling a headache building. They're treating first contact like a social visit. Dr. William Hayes, the Confederation's top strategic analyst, delivered the most sobering assessment. Admiral, we need to face the reality that traditional containment has failed. Not because we lack the military capability, but because humanity has made containment irrelevant. Hayes activated his own presentation, showing analysis of human behavior patterns. They're not trying to break through our barriers or overcome our defenses. They're convincing our own people to open the doors voluntarily. The evidence was overwhelming. Confederation citizens who had intercepted human communications were voluntarily learning human languages. Young people across the galaxy were adopting human fashion styles and social customs. Even military personnel were beginning to use human expressions like, "No worries and have a nice day." Communications Director Colonel Mary Johnson delivered the final blow. "Sir, we've been monitoring human internet communications. They've somehow deduced our existence despite all security protocols." "How is that possible?" Foster demanded. "They noticed patterns in their own observations," Johnson replied. "Unusual satellite movements, electromagnetic anomalies, unexplained technical malfunctions. Instead of panicking or preparing for invasion, they started piecing together clues like it was an entertaining puzzle." Johnson showed transcripts of human online discussions. "They're debating what gifts they should prepare for us. They're planning welcome parties. They're learning mathematical concepts they think we might find interesting. One group is composing what they call a universal friendship song." Admiral Foster stared at the data in disbelief. "They think we're going to be friends." "It's worse than that, sir," Johnson continued. "They're planning to help us with our problems. They've been analyzing galactic politics through their telescopes and radio observations. They have theories about how to improve our resource distribution and reduce conflicts between member species." The final report came from Dr. Lisa Chen, who had been studying human problem-solving methods. "Admiral, we need to consider the possibility that humanity might actually be able to help us. Their approach to complex problems is unlike anything we've encountered." She showed examples of human solutions to seemingly impossible challenges. They've eliminated diseases that plagued them for centuries. They've found ways to feed billions of their own people. They've even started reversing damage to their planet's climate. They approach problems with optimism and creativity that produces remarkable results. Admiral Foster looked around the room at the faces of the Confederation's finest minds, all wearing expressions of defeat. Recommendations. The discussion that followed was brief. Every containment strategy they proposed had already failed. Every defensive measure they considered had been undermined by humanity's relentless friendliness. Dr. Cooper stood slowly. There's only one viable option remaining, Admiral. Full diplomatic contact. We invite them to join the Confederation officially. And if we don't? Foster asked. Then they'll show up anyway, sir. They'll arrive with homemade gifts, offers to help with our problems, and an unstoppable desire to make friends with everyone they meet. At least if we invite them officially, we maintain some illusion of control over the process. The motion passed without debate. As the council members filed out to prepare for humanity's official welcome into galactic society, Admiral Foster remained behind, staring at the image of Earth on the display. For the first time in Confederation history, they were surrendering to an enemy that refused to fight. Humanity had achieved the impossible, they had made resistance seem heartless. The Category Red classification would remain, but now it meant something entirely different. Humanity wasn't dangerous because they wanted to destroy the galaxy. They were dangerous because they wanted to save it.